Hello guys, today we're going to learn how to shade objects and find lighting of an object. So we've studied this in our previous video when I teach you how to color. So it's pretty much the same basic concept. Like let's say we have the same circle we had as the last time. I said that the lighting came from here, so I made little curves to show you the different stages of brightness, and this here is supposed to be the brightest as it is the closest to the light, and the furthest should be the furthest point should be the darkest. The furthest point from the light should be the darkest. So as you go further, it should be a lot lighter in color. Like this. So if this bottom part is darker, then this should be semi-dark, and this should be very light, and this should be the brightest point. Maybe not even a color, because the light reflects on this object. So when the light, if there's a ground here, we usually take small strips and shade that way. So depending on how far this goes, like if I go over here, it shows how bigger the object is. So let's say I change, okay, let's say I change the lighting position. Let's say it came from down here. Well, the curve shouldn't change. It should follow at least. The brightest point should be here. Light, semi-dark, and the darkest point. Let's say the darkest point is over here. And when we want to cast a shadow, it should be right at the center on width. So you should follow where this line is, because the light only reflects vertically where the object's central is. Therefore, there you go. That's a shadow. Okay, so let's say my circle. Okay, let's say I shade it this way. Okay, let's say I shade it this way. Where do you think the light is reflecting through? Again, this point is the furthest from its light, so its opposite direction is where its light is. So if you guess that it's on the top left, yeah, you're correct, because this is where its light reflects off, and the shadow and shade is over here. So let's talk about spacing. Spacing is also very important, because the closer an object is to something, the more vivid the shadow is. So let's say I have a square, just any square. Let's say I have some sort of cube or box, and there is a wall right behind him, and the spacing is only just a small bit. Let's say he's very close to the wall that it might actually touch. So if the shadow is if the lighting is cast from here, that means there should be a very vivid shadow right there. And if you move the light more downwards, then this should go further up and more blurry, more fading. So let's say the wall is a little bit further. Let's say it's like a good few centimeters away from the object. The square is still in the same position. So if the light is still coming from here, it should be more blurry. So is these. The closer it is, the more vivid the shadow is. So as you move towards the wall, it should be getting more blurry. So let's say this is the end. So what you want are blurry edges, not definitive. So when you're drawing, you should be more gentle with the coloring. It should be more sketchy, like that. And of course, this part should be darker. And as you go up, you make it slightly lighter in color as it fades towards the wall. Let's just make it. Okay, let's show a more realistic example. Let's say I have this object here. You can see where the light is projecting at, as the shadow is over here. So no matter where I turn, the shadow still stands because the light mostly coming from that direction. And the height of the object also matters, as it determines how high your shadow is. So if I just use an eraser, let's say, you can see that the shadow is slightly more smaller because the height of this is a lot smaller than compared to this. Unless I perhaps make it stand up, and you can see that it's a lot more taller. So if I were to put my hand, the shadows you should place it is where each finger is reflecting off on the light. As the light is pointing that way, then shadows should appear here. And as the arm gets bigger, on these sides is the thicker sides, then it goes a lot higher. You wouldn't be drawing shadows over here that connects. That doesn't make sense, as nothing connects between your thumb and your finger, does it? So each shadow should be parallel to where your fingers are. And then as the object is further away from the light, it casts more shadows. It has a bigger shade compared to these. As you can see, the pinky almost has no shadow, right? But if you look over here, there's a shadow here you can see, and over here, you can obviously see that there's a shadow clearly over there. And over here, there's almost none, and here there's semi, here there's also some, and here is the thickest, as it is the furthest part from the light itself. Alright, so if we were to draw a face, and we are trying to put a shadow on it to seem more realistic, let's say the lighting comes from here. So you know where the light goes. So where do you think the shadow should be? Where are the dents on your faces? Where are the places where shadows should be. So if something umbrellas over an area, that means it shades. Something like here, under the eyebrows, a little bit maybe under the eyes if you want to detail, and under the nose, and under top lip, and a little bit on the bottom lip, on the chin, and here. So these are the areas that umbrellas over an area. So naturally, light wouldn't pass through as these are covered by this. So is this and this and this and this. So if there's something on top of something or an area, then that area should be shaded. So if you look a lot more careful, then you notice that there should be shadows here because no light passes through, like a little over here, depending on your ear shapes and canals. They're very important. And perhaps under here or under here, depending on how detailed you want your drawings to be. This is a very abstract, but generally these are the places that you should be focusing. And depending on how high the light is, this can either go down lower or it can just over here. So when you're drawing, it's very important to know where the lighting is, or not you won't know where to put your shadow. You can't just put a shadow on wherever there's an umbrella over an area, because it just doesn't make sense. Like let's say I put a shadow like here. And the lighting let's say the lighting change like right here, but you shade this area. That doesn't quite make sense, does it? Because the light is right there. This should not be here. This should not be here, but you shade it, and that's where you made the mistake. You should not shade just because you think it's an umbrella. Like it's an area where it's usually covered. So what you want to do is, first, when you draw something, you can draw the first sketch first, but secondly, it's so important to figure out where you want your light to be. Where do you want your shines to be? So if you want to focus on getting light on the nose, like so you can define where the shiny bit of the nose and like shinier lips, then you should focus on where the light usually reflects. So let's say the light over here. So then the light focuses mainly here, and the rest can be shades. And the light closer to it will be a lot lighter, and there will be a shine to it. So if you should figure out where your focus of light should be, you shouldn't just have it thinking that it's general. Like even if there's light everywhere, there is a certain point where it is at its brightest, because there won't be light coming down from here when you're in a normal room, right? Light is from on top. So that means if you want to have a general lighting, then focus on mainly here. You don't have to focus too much on here, the smaller details of the back or like the arm. No. You just need to focus on the face, figure out where its point is, if it's more to the left or more to the right. Then you just figure out where the light goes. You can just choose to make it in the center, a little in the center right, center left, anywhere, as long as it helps you find your shine and in what surface reflects the light. Alright guys, that's all for today. I hope you enjoy. I hope this tutorial teaches you something. And like I said before, drawing is not easy, but it's not hard either. All you need to do is practice, and if you're determined enough, then you will get the results that you wish. You don't need fancy tools, you don't need fancy teachers. All you need is practice, then you'll learn as time goes on. So don't worry if you don't get it right the first time, because you're just not used to it. You just need to learn on your own or learn from YouTube tutorials that teaches you how to be correct, or you can teach yourself how to be correct. It's called self-study. So as long as you study enough and be in the field enough, then you'll understand its aspects a lot more as you spend more time with it. So I hope you can use this to study more on your time, and I guess I'll see you later. Bye!